Hello everyone, back with me again, Joseph, your host, and welcome back to our channel and the Catechism for Kids. Today, on November 9th, we celebrate the feast day of a truly courageous and inspiring figure from the early church, Saint Theodore of Amasea, also known as Saint Theodore the Recruit. He's a great martyr and one of the most famous warrior saints, especially revered in the Eastern Orthodox Church. So, let's dive into the incredible story of this young soldier who stood firm in his faith against all odds. Theodore lived in the early 4th century, a dangerous time for Christians under the Roman emperors Diocletian and Maximian. He was a new recruit, or Tyro in Latin, serving in the Roman army stationed in Pontus, which is in modern-day Turkey. Life as a soldier was tough, but a new imperial order was about to make it impossible for a faithful Christian. The edict declared that all soldiers had to offer sacrifices to the pagan gods of Rome. For Theodore, this was a line he could not cross. When commanded to participate, he boldly refused and openly declared his Christian faith. His commanders, perhaps seeing his youth and not wanting to lose a promising soldier, decided to give him some time to think it over. They probably hoped he would come to his senses and just go along with the order. But they underestimated Theodore's conviction. Instead of quietly reconsidering, Theodore used his temporary freedom to make a powerful statement. He went to the local temple dedicated to Cybele, the mother goddess, and set it on fire. This wasn't just an act of rebellion. It was a loud and clear message that these idols were powerless, just statues of wood and stone that couldn't even save their own temple from flames. As you can imagine, this act of defiance did not go unnoticed. Theodore was immediately arrested again. This time, there would be no leniency. He was thrown into prison and subjected to horrific tortures designed to break his spirit and force him to renounce Christ. But Theodore's faith was unbreakable. Throughout the ordeal, he remained steadfast. His famous words echo through history, "As long as I have breath, I will confess the name of Christ," seeing that nothing could sway him. His tormentors condemned him to the most extreme punishment, to be burned alive in a furnace. Yet, even in the face of this terrifying death, Theodore was at peace. He died a martyr around the year 306, his soul ascending to God, leaving behind a legacy of incredible courage. After his death, the story of Saint Theodore spread like wildfire. He became one of the most prominent soldier saints, a heavenly protector for those serving in the military. He is often depicted in art wearing his military uniform, a symbol of his earthly profession and his role as a soldier for Christ. Christians began to pray to him for protection, especially for soldiers and against storms. He also became known as a patron for help in recovering lost items. Over the centuries, more stories were told about him. In the East, legends grew of Saint Theodore slaying a dragon to save a village. This story, which shows his power over evil, is very similar to the famous legend of Saint George, and sometimes the two stories get intertwined. But perhaps the most famous story about Saint Theodore happened about 50 years after his death, during the reign of the Emperor Julian the Apostate. Julian was trying to bring back paganism and trick the Christians. During the first week of Lent, when Christians fast very strictly, Julian secretly ordered that all the food in the marketplaces of Constantinople be sprinkled with blood from pagan sacrifices. He knew the people would be hungry and would unknowingly eat the defiled food. But Saint Theodore was not going to let that happen. He appeared in a dream to the Archbishop of Constantinople, Eudoxius. In the vision, Theodore warned him about the emperor's plot. He told the archbishop to instruct all the Christians not to buy any food from the market. Instead, they should boil the wheat they had at home and eat it with a little honey. This dish is called kolava. The archbishop followed the instructions, and the Christians were saved from the emperor's trap. This event is known as the miracle of the boiled wheat. To this day, the Eastern Orthodox Church commemorates this miracle every year on the first Saturday of Great Lent. They bless and distribute kolava too. Remember Saint Theodore's heavenly protection. Saint Theodore's veneration grew rapidly. His body was eventually moved from Amasea to Ucata, his birthplace, which became a major pilgrimage site and was even called Theodoropolis, or Theodore City. Churches dedicated to him sprang up all over the Christian world, from Constantinople and Jerusalem to Rome and Venice. Interestingly, Saint Theodore was the original patron saint of Venice before the relics of Saint Mark were brought to the city. The Doge's first chapel was dedicated to him. There were 15 churches in Constantinople, dedicated to Saint Theodore, who was a Greek saint, specially venerated by the Eastern Church. Venice had originally been a subject city of the Eastern Roman Empire, and the Venetians saw Saint Theodore as a symbol of their subjection to Constantinople. The adoption of Saint Mark as their patron helped to establish their independence. The new church of Saint Mark was built between the old chapel of Saint Theodore and the ducal palace. When this was enlarged and rebuilt in the late 11th century, the chapel of Saint Theodore disappeared in the rebuilding. There is today a small chapel dedicated to Saint Theodore behind Saint Mark's church. This was not built until 1486. It was later occupied by the Inquisition in Venice. You can still see his statue in Venice today, standing atop a tall column in the Piazzetta watching over the city, a crocodile at his feet representing the dragon he defeated. Reputed relics of Saint Theodore were taken from Mesembria by a Venetian admiral in 1257, and after being first placed in a Venetian church in Constantinople, were brought to Venice in 1267. They were placed in the church of San Salvatore. So, who was Saint Theodore? Was he just a young recruit? Some scholars suggest the name Tyro might not mean recruit, but referred to a specific military unit. The coheres Tyranno. There's also some historical confusion between him and another warrior saint, Theodore Stratlates. But for centuries, the faithful have known him simply as Saint Theodore, the brave soldier who was not afraid to stand up for Jesus. His story is beautifully told in the stained glass windows of Chartres Cathedral in France, and his icon is a powerful reminder of faith in the face of persecution. He shows us that true strength doesn't come from swords or shields, but from a heart full of love for God. No matter how young you are or what your job is, you can be a soldier for Christ through your faith, your courage, and your actions. Saint Theodore the Recruit teaches us to be bold in our faith, to reject things that are contrary to God's will, and to trust that God will give us the strength to face any challenge, just as he gave strength to Theodore in that fiery furnace. Thank you so much for joining us today to learn about the incredible life of Saint Theodore. I hope his story inspires you as much as it inspires me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of the saints, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. May Saint Theodore pray for us all. See you next time in the next interesting stories of saints. Take care, everyone. Stay safe and healthy as usual. And may the Lord bless you and keep you always.